Welcome, welcome. I am Lucian Toma, and you are looking at and watching a live free webinar that is meant to provide some insight into the value that will be shared and experienced in the Level Up Permaculture online course that myself and my partner Anna Maria are teaching that starts on September 4th. And the topic of today's webinar is how permaculture design helped us buy our farm that we are on right now, with a subtitle of Fundraising 8 Forms of Capital with Permaculture. Again, I'm Lucian Toma. I am the co-founder of Sun and Bloom Farms, from where this course is coming. I am the co-creator of this Level Up Permaculture online course. I'm very excited to share this free information to inspire other people with what is possible with permaculture design. So just one moment here for one small technical thing. There we are. I think we are all good to go. Thank you so much for joining. So I'm gonna do my best to keep it really short. I did present another free webinar, again with the same intention to share with people the value of the online the Level Up Permaculture online course that we're teaching starting September 4th. And you can find actually the link to that recording somewhere on my personal Facebook page. You can find it more higher definition and better quality, a recording of it without the minute-and-a-half kind of technical difficulties I had yesterday. You can find it on our new YouTube channel for Sun and Bloom Farms. If you type anywhere, Level Up Permaculture, or Level Up Permaculture Sun and Bloom Farms, or Sun and Bloom Farms, or Lucian Toma, you will be able to find that recording. You'll be able to find the course itself. So anyway, on the agenda today is to share more of a personal story that's has some elements of the things that we will be sharing. And thank you so much, Jason, for sharing that on Facebook. Let me see if anybody else is trying to get on Zoom. I might need some more technical assistance from Jason. Thank you so much for that. So again, just giving some hints into the value that this course is bringing. I'll just go straight into it just to keep it super short. Just wanted to share a little bit about our farmstead and where we at right now in our journey with permaculture design. In August 2024, we are in Lebanon, Missouri. We own 37 acres with 2 homes on it, and this is like the farm part of it. 2 homes on the acres. 2/3 of this land is forest, a lot of beautiful young forest that we're working with to bring some health and resilience to. About 1/3 of it is pasture, and a smaller portion than that is where we are basically growing veggies, herbs, and flowers, all of this for the local market. We're raising birds for eggs and meats. We're raising goats for milk and for companionship, of course, and friendship, and pigs for meat. And we're also making natural medicine for the local market, feeding 35 families right now. We do have a CSA model. And we also go to the farmers market. We have a few people that did not opt into our CSA model, but we are working with them to feed them from our property here. We also do a lot of training of local gardeners and farmers in regenerative practices, and some of these trainings are in partnership with regional universities. I took a job for 1 year to work with a university here with a program where I was going to reach out to local farmers and help them improve their operations and improve their approach to growing, but also to selling, basically to help them, improve their income. And of course, myself with my passion, I brought a lot of the regenerative practices to the surface. Some other universities and other organizations kind of took a note of that, and they invited me to partner with them. So I'm not with that university as an employee anymore, but I do work with multiple regional universities right now and some other programs. You can check that out on our website, the Sun and Bloom Farms, and see kind of what we have going and what we have, what we're offering next. We also host very unique ecological lifestyle educational community events in the region. We have a few different ones. This picture here is actually from a seed saving and seed swapping event. We had about 100 people at that time. It was, I think we did it in March. And we had a local chef that came and made a super amazing food with beautiful ingredients. A lot of the people in this picture are people that are our friends and our community that have been extremely supportive, both, just found them by them coming to our events or coming to our workshops, and then they decided that they wanted to be family. So we're very excited about that. There are a few other unique things that we're doing. We have done probably one of the most unique farm to table dinner last year. We're doing another one this year where we are featuring all local ingredients. I'm talking even the salt is local. So really, Anna Maria, my partner, is the huge wrangler that brought this together. And we're also teaching, designing, and consulting at the government, academic, nonprofit, and private level in the realm of permaculture design. We've been doing it for 10 years, pieces of it, but in the last 5 to 6 years, we've been able to do it at all these different levels, from helping, for example, local governments put ecological education, public education programs together, like composting, for example, to reduce waste. Some other programs also academic level, helping community colleges integrate, and now working with a university also, integrate permaculture design education in their curriculum and their programs, because there's such a big demand out there, and it's a new need to basically have this kind of education out there. And of course, working with nonprofits, working with private individuals, businesses to either design their landscapes to produce an abundance of food. We're in a way, at this point, we're choosing our clients rather than having our clients choosing us. We really want to work with clients to have the most impact possible. Sometimes, any small or any size permaculture design project has a lot of impact, especially when it's done right, when it's really using the permaculture lenses to design that land. And at this point ourselves, we just want to be able to do projects that we can measure the impact easier than the ones that we know that they impact anyway, like small gardens that we help design back in California, but also here that we know inspire the people we design for, but also other people that come in touch with those people and with the gardens themselves. And a few farms right now that we're very excited to help transition to regenerative agriculture. I wanted to mention that if you wanted to see the last presentation I did, which was yesterday, right now, the people that are watching this live, or even if you're watching this recorded, you'll be able to find it on YouTube. You'll be able to find it on my Facebook, on our farm's Facebook, possibly other places too. Um, I did talk about the importance of holistic context analysis when making choices in design. So I highly recommend you watch that to understand that a permaculture design or any kind of landscape that's been designed with permaculture doesn't necessarily have to look, like this huge abundance of all the elements of permaculture, ponds and bioswales and orchards and animals and community eco villages. But different different context allowed for different things. And I apologize for getting a dry throat here from being so excited. So this is our farmstead right now in 2024. And because the title is like how permaculture design helped us to buy our farm and actually make this possible, I'm going to share a little bit about the starting point. So our starting point in 2018, we had a vision. Okay, so the first thing that we did, Anna Maria and I became a couple. We were both permaculture designers and educators and practitioners in our own way, in our own careers. I designed and installed a lot of small and medium scale gardens, like gardens that were feeding people um, part of their food needs, but also landscapes that were actually feeding families of four with everything that they needed, all the nutrient needs. And I apologize for having a dry throat again. So when we got together, we knew that maybe that's a conversation for a future webinar. We knew what we individually wanted, and we also realized that we are going to do this together. So as a family, like many families out there, I'm hoping that with your partner, you are envisioning your future, you're planning your future, you're talking about the future, and that's what we did. So we kind of like went through that step one of the permaculture design process that we're teaching in our course that starts on September 4th, 2024. Again, shameless plug here. You can take it for free. You can do it for donation as low as $17. You can take and get all of the recordings and have access to the entire course at the full contact level without having to necessarily interact with anybody, which we actually have quite a lot of people that bought the course that way. And then you can also do it at the design certification level where you'll get access to myself, Anna Maria, and other designers and other peers in your course to be able to create a final permaculture design, get certified, and enter to be voted to win possibly your money back. So you can take a look at those details at sunandbloomfarms.com to see the details of the Level Up Permaculture course. So back to what we did, we used this design process before I even put it on paper. Like these first steps 1, 2, and 3 in general out there in permaculture courses, you're not always going to see them in certain permaculture courses. So I've seen some permaculture courses adapt and kind of like bring these ideas in, because when you are in permaculture for a long time, you realize that as a designer, you do it automatically like this, but we're not teaching it like this. So I'm teaching it like this now. So back to what we did in 2018, 6 years ago, we envisioned exactly almost what we live in right now. So we went through that step one, and we had a vision of how our life would look like, how our farm will look like, what our farm is going to do, which is exactly what it's doing right now, minus a few things that we still are working on. And also some things that actually we did, and we realized that we weren't that far in our vision to actually be ready and have the right resources, including our own energy to basically be able to run that. So We envisioned, that was the first thing that we did. That's how permaculture design kind of like started for us for our vision. And then we did step two, which we conducted a holistic context analysis of ourselves and our lives. Right? We basically looked at where are we? Like we would be the project beneficiaries, right? The main project beneficiaries. We would design for ourselves our future farm. So we asked exactly the question that we are going to run the participants through, which is where do the project beneficiaries stand in their multiple forms of capital, and what are they willing to commit to achieve their vision, mission, and goals? So that's a huge one. It's very important if you design for yourself or you design for others, looking at that holistic context of the people that will basically run the place that you would be designing or the business. It's very important. And it's very important for people to get in that space. So after we did a deep dive into that, we realized that we had a lot of work to do and all the forms of capital needed to make our vision come true, because our vision was big, which kind of we live in it. You know, we had $0, by the way. Not we weren't necessarily broke or necessarily in debt, some college debt, but we didn't have access to financial capital to buy a farm, but we wanted it. So, and that's 6 years ago in 2018. And we've actually had this farm for 4 years. So I'll share a little bit more about that. So we went through these two steps and we said, oh, I don't know if it would make sense for us to move forward. I mean, step three, yes, we were in California. Possibly we wanted a farm there. We did do some work with that step three, kind of like looking at the holistic context analysis of the region where we were at. But we realized that in order for us to make a decision on where our farm will be, we would have to have some things in place to be able to say, this is where our farm is going to be. And I'm probably going to have to take a break at one point. Hopefully not. So here's the work that we started to do. So this idea here, I do use this idea in the course. I do share about this idea. I invite people to look more into it. The idea of the 8 forms of capital comes from the concept and philosophy is credited to Ethan C. Rowland from Appleseed Permaculture. You can check him out. This is basically a screenshot from a document that you can find it for free. And I included in my course, but I have some expanded documents also on the 8 forms of capital. And it's very smart because it's different than your traditional pathway. And I know I went to this slide already, but I just want to speak to it really quick. Most people don't have that pathway to make their dream of owning a home, farm, especially a farm like we wanted, to have access to, especially the financial capital right away. And some people give up, or some people get so discouraged. Guess what? There's so many other forms of capital. So I'll speak to them right now. You can take a look at this, at the picture to the right if you want to, but I'll speak to the text that I added. I know it's a lot of text here. I'll take it one by one. You'll be able to follow with this. So in the 8 forms of capital, the first form of capital to look at is social capital. This is basically people, right? Your connections and your relationships with people. And people can help in many ways. So they could be people that you can get money from in one way or another, all right? From a relationship building, somebody that could let you borrow, somebody that can buy something from you. The social capital can be clients, customers, but can also be friends. They can also be peers. They can also be people from a community that you might be part of. But relationships are huge. So, to build social capital means that you are increasing your relationships, as many relationships as possible. I actually took a course once on leadership I'll share more about that at one point, where we were tasked with making a list of different people that we know and different and kind of like make a little note of each of that person on kind of what our relationship with these people is, and how would they play in a project that we basically did in that course. Like, what would be their role, and of course I started with the list of the people who would be the people that would buy my whatever I'm offering, or who would be the people that would support my cause. But there's so many others. There's people that can create connections. There's people you can learn from. There's people that you can ask for, different type of favors. There's people that you can offer different type of things to. So again, not to think just in this utilitarian way necessarily, like how can I use people, but think in terms of like, relationships are powerful, and sometimes help can come out of like places out of these relationships and being with people, right? So we knew that we had to build relationships. So what we thought is like, yeah, we can go out there in different kind of like places. A lot of people do like professional networking and all that. I've done that many times. Possibly you have done. We thought, hey, why not bring people to us? We already kind of knew how to do that. We saw some models, and you'll see in the other forms of capital, like how we, for example, in the intellectual part of it and experiential, right? We always strive to learn more how to, increase our other forms of capital. So we brought people to us really fast. We did a lot of workshops. We did a lot of community events. I'll show you some pictures on the next slide. Workshops, courses, events. I started to teach the permaculture design course in 2014 the first time. By 2018, I felt really comfortable to teach after designing a lot, and I'll speak to that too. After designing and also teaching via other organizations, I decided that I could teach. But we've seen other people use kind of like building social capital by sharing skills, teaching skills, right? So I don't want to make this presentation just about how we did it, because different people have different contexts. And again, that's my presentation from yesterday. But this idea of bringing people to you could be done in so many ways. Other people might not want to do that. They might want to go out there to build that community in maybe a space where they could take that role of bringing people in that space. So there's so many different things. I've tried different things. I went and taught, simple workshops and introduction to permaculture at the college extension programs. So anybody can teach a class if you look at an extension college. So I taught regular college, but I also taught those kind of courses too. And so I've done that. That's a beautiful avenue to find the people that like the things that you like. I've looked for opportunities to teach in other spaces, but then I realized that, bringing people closer, it made it easier. So I use some permaculture principles there, and I'll speak to it in one of the slides. I use the permaculture principle of relative location and also stacking functions. And I can speak in the course more about this and give some more examples. But the idea was that, instead of me moving and going into all of these communities, I was trying to bring all of these communities to me so I can create those relationships a little bit easier. So I put myself in a relative location. I positioned myself to be able to connect with these different communities and people. So enough about that. I'm all about that part. I am an extrovert. I am becoming more of an introvert to speak the truth here, but it's definitely important to be able to connect with people, and everybody can connect with people in different ways. So that was that form of capital that both Anna Maria and I decided that we needed to build as much as possible in many ways. Then there's the material capital. This is usually when you are designing a landscape itself. So we didn't have the landscape itself, but we realized that we were able to become a borrowing hub. We became a borrowing hub for tools for people to use to, plant and, make raised beds and, drill holes in rain barrels and, uh, uh, people even wanted to use our bunny up, which is a device that you can very simply use to find level on the terrain to be able to um, dig bioswales, for example, or even ponds, make different type of decisions on where to put different things in the landscape. So that was helping us with the social capital also. But what helped us with the material capital was that we were able to get some of these tools that we can take and use in any context. I have tools that I have here on my farm and I still use that I had in the context of a small garden in the beginning. um Financially, the financial capital, the biggest one that you need a down payment for a farm, right? You need money to have to run a farm. Trust me, you need money to start and run a farm. uh and a farm is definitely a farmstead, and I'll speak to that, is definitely worth running. It's definitely worth running. It's definitely worth looking into ways to make money off a farm. So financially, we ran a few profitable small enterprises. We did a few things. One, we did a basically wild cut flowers that took very little energy. In my last webinar, I spoke about how we helped a different client do that, and that became kind of their passion. Um, so we very low energy, very little input, very cool, a seasonal thing. All I did was I got a lot of free seeds from different community gatherings, learned from some native flower and plant experts in the area. And we had these seeds basically spread everywhere. And by year two, and I did this actually before Anna Maria and I started to do things together, but she kind of saw I did the wildflowers for, habitat and holding the hill in place where we were, because there was some kind of land movement and pollinators and all of that. And then she's like, hey, we can also make a cut flower business. So then we looked for flowers that were better for cut flowers to sell them. And that was like really powerful. Anna Maria was doing beekeeping. She was bringing people on the property where we were at, where we asked permission to basically have some hives, and then we learned that they were illegal, and somebody called on us, and we had to take the hives away. They were actually not illegal. The city didn't even have an ordinance or a policy or anything, and that's why we learned that's important. You better learn the laws of the place before you make certain things. So that was kind of experiential capital that we were building, which is another thing that we did. So financially, we're looking at all types of different things to kind of like gather those funds to live the life that we were living at that point, but also to gather some funds and be able to have a down payment. So of course, that was like stacking very slowly because we were young. We didn't have a lot of experience with these things, and we had other types of expenses also. And of course, we were new to a lot of these different things. So 6 years ago, very new to a lot of the things. I was doing design. I knew how to do it. But when you run your own business, there's like all kinds of different things that you have to figure out. And then if you're trying to do new and other things, the context matter. And our context was like, we're young, we know how to do it, we're excited to do it, let's get it done. So financially, we were building it small, but socially, we were expanding our network. And then living a capital, we were building and working with what we had in that space where we were at, and enhancing that. We're enhancing living capital for other people, expanded our social capital and financial capital further, and material capital, because now we had people that would let us borrow certain things that they had on their properties that they needed to manage their gardens that we helped them build. Intellectual capital, man, we studied constantly as many things as possible. Um, uh, so we studied, we created, and we tried a lot of ideas. We did a few other enterprises. I'll speak to them in the course, and I also have a different course that and a book that was supposed to come up next year, but it's coming up this fall, where I do expand on all of the enterprises that we worked with. Experiential, we just taught, designed, installed, and farm permaculture 24/7. We wanted to learn as much as possible. And you'll see how we put, for example, the principle of stacking functions, the principle of the permaculture principle of stacking functions, how every time we did something, we shared about it for multiple reasons. One, to promote our business and promote the services or the things that we were offering or the products we were selling, but also to have that as a live resume of who we are, what we're doing, what our journey is. That has changed a lot, how that works out there in the social media world. However, some of our approaches are actually just kind of like evergreen and time bound. Pictures and videos speak a lot, especially pictures, especially the right pictures. So we gained a lot of experience, and then we were using all of this experience recorded to build other kinds of capital, like financial, because we were able to promote what we're doing, and social, because people were seeing what we were doing. Spiritual, hey, we praised and prayed a lot. We believe that that's huge in any kind of vision, any kind of mission to put something together. And I can speak more to that too if anybody's interested. And cultural, we created communities. We created kind of like rituals in our communities where now people were expecting us to have these workshops on a regular if they wanted to come and see them. They expected us to do these community gatherings. So we created community with, I mean, I've even had a little song I came up with, and a lot of my graduates from my permaculture courses still sing it, which is mulch it here, mulch it there, mulch it everywhere. So this was a powerful kind of like song to kind of address water conservation and soil building. Okay, I got 3 more slides, but this second one is just basically showing some pictures here. All the way right corner, just some of the graduates from my permaculture design courses in person. I think I've taught over 25 at this point. Here's the house where we were at, where graciously we had access to bring all these people in the house of somebody that's a not complete, but very introverted, doesn't like to have a lot of people around. They do better with like smaller amounts of people, and we had the house full and bringing people and sharing the permaculture presentations and all that. Myself to the right and the left, not being on a high horse of, the one of the very few permaculture designers in Orange County where I was, but actually going and doing the work too. Now there are way more many, and quite a lot of them are graduates of mine. I'm pretty proud. I love watching their stories and everything that they do. Some of the big permaculture designers of Orange County are actually in these pictures here. Anyway, an example of the permaculture design practice and certification course that I was bringing to that place that we got access to. So in everything that we really did, we were guided by the ethics and principles of permaculture. Everything that we did, we put it through the 3 ethics and said, hey, is this action, does this reflect care for the earth? Does this reflect care of the people? Does this reflect fair share or return of the surplus that we're creating? So we function like that. We always put any kind of like business idea that we had, any kind of like community idea that we had, we put it through those lenses. And guess what? Wasn't always perfect. It wasn't always, completely caring for the earth, completely caring for the people, completely returning a fair share, because it just wasn't possible. It could be very, you can be frozen in that analysis sometimes. The most important thing to do when you put any kind of design decisions through these lenses of through this ethics is to say that if I can't completely meet this idea of, this specific action, like teaching seed starting, but we were using plastic trays that we knew were not necessarily completely in line with care for the earth. We could have found better solutions, even like biodegradable ones, but then we realized that some of these biodegradable pots and seed trays were not in line with care for the earth either. So what we did, we made a promise that if right now we're not completely in line with that, we are working towards being in line with that in other actions that we're taking and in this action that we may repeat in the future. So being okay with that. And then, of course, the principles of permaculture are super powerful at every level. There are different words that are being used in some of these principles, the way they are presented there. I'm not going to go through too many of them, but just if you can remember the two that I discussed really simply: relative location, just positioning things in relationship with others that were like good connections with other things, right, in the landscape, but also like as I was exemplifying myself, being in connection with different communities, uh, in a good spot to have a good connection and a good relationship to have mutual benefits, and then stacking functions and as many actions as possible, fulfilling um, multiple goals, multiple functions, stacking functions. So if we taught a workshop, many times we designed workshops where one of the function was to build social capital. So we had a sliding scale or a very affordable price to it, so that we can meet as many people as possible. But it did touch on financial capital too, because we covered costs and made maybe minimal profit. So that's kind of the idea of how we use some of these principles. And of course, in the course, we'll talk more about that and way more many examples. But I wanted to get to this like last slide of my presentation to say that, again, we documented all of our experience and impact and made a few leaps forward after kind of using this pathway. And two of the biggest things that we did to leap forward, and we used, again, this pathway of growing different forms of capital: social capital, material living, financial, intellectual, experiential, spiritual, cultural. So we grew these different forms of capital, and we got to certain points where we were able to say, what's a big leap forward that we can make right now using these forms of capital that will help us make other big leaps forward in the future. So we got to a point where we said we could get our farm, but we realized that this might not be the farm forever. We knew that, but to make that happen, to go farming, to move from small scale community building. I mean, we had access to a lot of community. We were able to teach a lot. We were in an urban environment. We knew that we wanted to move away from that and actually go farm in a more rural environment. We wouldn't have the millions of dollars to purchase or buy a place, and couldn't find the right people that would want to make that kind of commitment to buy it in a suburban urban environment. So we knew that it had to be rural. So we used basically the experience that we built, the portfolio that we built of design, of education. We actually, I wanted to put this, that we made some leap forwards by taking some jobs at one point, teaching for the local community college. We knew that that's going to give us a super huge leap forward. We knew that teaching at the community college will build more experiential and intellectual capital for us, as well as social capital for us that we could use to promote our work further and do other things further. Hopefully, if one of those people that hired us for these jobs do not think that we did it just to build our portfolio, but we also did it because we really love teaching people also. And we love that experience, and it was like immense learning. Uh, but again, in the course on September 4th, I do share different pathways different people can do if they don't have a specific background, let's say. So I'm providing a lot of options for people to say, how do you do, maybe you can't go and teach at a community college because you didn't necessarily finish, like a master's degree like I did, for example. But there's definitely other avenues to teach in different environments to build that kind of resume capital, if you want to call it, and credibility capital, and of course, intellectual and experiential. So that was one big, that took us like to the next level. But the biggest one was to ask the community that we created to help us go get the first farm. I'm not going to go too much into it, but we did go and leased a 40-acre farm. We got to work with 20 acres. We did amazing things there, more permaculture courses, more workshops, a lot of production, a lot of community coming together. It became a different type of thing. Everybody just didn't want to leave anymore. That was coming to our place. Well, when they first got there, they were like, you guys are insane to move in the high desert. And then after a while, they started to just basically want to be there and come do a lot of things with us. And then we realized that we wanted to have ownership, which is a big conversation, because that, in the relationship that we had, we realized that we couldn't make all the decisions that we wanted. So we used a lot of the visual design skills that we had and structure of communicating, a vision with mission and goals and an ask. We use that to pitch people to help us buy the farm where we at. So permaculture design definitely helped us do that because it was completely in line with what we've done so far, and it was a great natural continuation of what we've done. So to summarize, we envisioned our future. In step 2, we looked at our context, and our context said, you have a little bit of work to do before you can make and go to your step number 3. And when we decided that we're going to come here, we did do that step number 3, which was to look at this entire area and understand the context, economic, social, cultural, environmental, with all of its intricacies, to really understand how are we going to do this here. And it was really powerful to do that exercise. And I can share more about that at one point. But my point for today was to say, we used permaculture design to build our career and to build our portfolio and to later on basically get our farm. And we did it in 2 ways. 1, building all those 8 forms of capital, and then 2, to make some big leaps forward, making some big asks of our community. We're going to make some more big asks of our community at the point that we realize that we have enough to put out there and say, hey, here's what we'd like to do and how you can help and how that could benefit you, which is my next point. Hey, we're teaching a live online permaculture design course that you can even take for free, with all of these themes and all of these topics, and you're invited to come check it out. If you would like for free, I highly recommend you take it at least at a donation level to make sure that you have that recording just in case you're missing. If you miss any of them, so 40 sessions, 18 of them are presentations that I am going to lead, and my partner Anna Maria, and possibly some other designers from our group. And then the last 2 are the participants that are at the design certification level. They'll share about the designs that they're going to create, and then present later in 2025 in February. So uh, at the donation level, you'll have all of those recordings indefinitely. And then at the higher levels, you'll have all of these recordings plus a lot more that we are doing with the people at the full content level and the design certification level, which is an extra 50 hours of interaction and support for the people that are taking, well, the design certificate get the interaction, the live interaction, the full content, they get the recordings of that, which adds more value to each of these presentations. So you're invited to do that, and hopefully you will, if you have dreams to either design your space or if you have dreams to get your space at one point. The course can help you build your business. One of the most amazing things that I've noticed when I took my first permaculture course, when I started sharing, I'm going to take the permaculture course, and then sharing from inside of the permaculture course, listen to what I've been learning, and then coming after the permaculture course and being on fire and saying, here's what I did, here's my project, my first project in that permaculture design course. Here's what I designed. How cool is that? You want me to do it for you? I actually offered a lot of free design for a lot of people, but I've also had people that immediately wanted to pay me to do these things. So it's really powerful to share, I'm taking this course. Here's what I'm learning. Hopefully you're not sharing all of my content for free, but you are, you're making your own. So the invitation is on the table. I hope you got some value today from this recording, and I'm looking forward to possibly see you in this course. By the way, we have a lot of people that are taking this course. Still, we have the capacity to bring more. So thank you so much, and I'll see you soon.